Welcome back, friends. Dan Vega here, and today's tutorial is going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to take a look at Adobe XD and how I use it to create my YouTube thumbnails. And we'll do it right after this. If you're new to this channel, I run the website danvega.dev, and it actually just got a nice little overhaul, fresh coat of paint, if you will. So if you want to learn a little bit more about me, my articles, courses, videos, head over to danvega.dev and you will find some more information. So in today's tutorial, we're going to talk about Adobe XD. So design has always been something that I've been interested in, but have never really been great at. But it is one of those things I think you can learn. If you gave me something and asked me to try and recreate it, that's something that I think I could do. If you asked me to be artistic and just draw something from scratch, that's probably not something that I would be able to do, at least not right now. But so one of the things that has always given me a little bit anxiety about creating YouTube videos is trying to come up with a thumbnail. Thumbnails, titles, descriptions are all very important to make sure that your content gets discovered. And so for the longest time, I would want to make a video and just go, I don't know what thumbnail to go ahead and create for this. And so that would be a lot of angst in creating these new videos. So about a year ago, I want to say, maybe a little bit less, I decided to come up with a theme. So all of my new thumbnails kind of look the same, but they change based on the content. So if I'm creating a view video or a spring boot video, like the icon and colors change, but most of the content is still the same. And so this has really helped me out. Now knowing like I don't have to worry about going to find some images or some vector art or any of these elements that I used to put on my thumbnails. And I know what the theme is going to be. I just got to create them. So up until now, I've done all of this in Photoshop, and there are a couple of problems with this. One, I had all these PSD files laying around, like in project files, on my cloud, wherever. Like these PSD files were everywhere. And then two, like it really became, because they're everywhere, it became a pain to like, all right, I need to create a new video for view. When was the last time that I created a view tutorial, right? So I'd have to think about that, go into that folder, grab that PSD, make a copy of it, paste it into my new tutorial, and then modify that. And the whole workflow just doesn't work for me. I am someone who likes to be very efficient with things that I'm doing. I don't have a lot of time, so the better I can get at that kind of stuff, processes, definitely helps me out. So what I want to show you today is how I've been using Adobe XD lately to create all of my YouTube thumbnails. And I know you can go ahead and sign up for Adobe XD for like one artboard, I think. I'm not sure what the pricing model is. So you'll want to head over to adobe.com and find Adobe XD. The reason that I decided to use it is because I was already a Creative Cloud member. So I have a subscription to it because I use tools like Premiere Pro and After Effects and Photoshop and Lightroom. So this was a tool that I already had access to. So if this is something that you don't want to pay for, I completely understand that. There are probably other tools out there that you can do something similar with. Again, it's just vector-based art. And what I really like about XD is that I can throw everything on a single artboard, and that's what we're going to walk through today. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into XD. I'm going to show you my board that I currently have, and then I'm going to show you how to create one of your own. All right, so here we are in XD, and this is for my YouTube thumbnails. Now again, this could be for any collection of things that you create. So think about like blog post articles or YouTube videos or course videos or any content that you're going to create more than once. And it may or may not even have a theme to it. That really doesn't matter, but in my case, it does. So again, I think one of the distinct pros here is that I have everything in one place. You can see that I have some headings here, and I know from January of 2020, I only created 3 videos on YouTube. So not only having everything in one place, but it also gives me like a quick snapshot of how I was doing on YouTube this year. And I know that March I set out for a big goal to create 3 videos each week. So I ended up with 12 videos in March of 2020. And I can see that right by looking at this. And as April and May have come around, I've kind of slowed down on that. So that's one really big pro for me. Now, the next big thing is, okay, I'm ready to create a new video. Let's just say my next video is going to be on Java 14 records, and I need to create a thumbnail for it. What I can do is I can come in here and I can select this. So I can come in here and select this one. I can also, if I start to have just a ton of these, I can go into my artboards here and let me find this. So here's all my artboards. And as we start to, I'm going to go in and show you how I did this, but it's important, just like in any other design application, to give things like proper names. So don't call it like my artboard 1, but if you give them proper names, you can come down here and look at all of them too. And if you wanted to select them, you can come in and say, all right, I want to find the Java one. You can go ahead and select it, or anyone that you select, it goes ahead and selects the artboard. So you can do it that way, or you can just come in here and I'm going to show you some, you can zoom and pan. So I'll show you these shortcuts as we get into creating our own. But once you have the artboard selected, you can Command D and that will duplicate the artboard. So let's say we're still here in May 2020. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this down. Everything snaps and aligns really well in XD. And that's one thing that I really love. So now that I have the artboard selected, I can Command 3 and I can go right into this artboard, start changing the text. This is Java 14, what would you say, records. And so now I have the same colors. I might modify these. I might actually, so this is what I do with this is I end up using a screenshot of the different code that I use here, and I just kind of put it in the background with some opacity so it blurs into the background. So I might update this screenshot, but most of this is ready to go. I don't have a lot of work to do to create a thumbnail that I feel like looks good and is able to get done very quickly. So I'm going to zoom back out, Command plus and minus, and if you hold down the space bar, you could kind of move things around. So if you already have seen, shortcuts become increasingly important in XD because it lets you zoom in and out, especially in a scenario like this where I have tons of different artboards. So go into this document. I'll go ahead and leave this in the description below, but start learning the shortcuts. Don't need to learn them all at once. I only know a few myself, but the few that I use are very helpful. So back in XD. So again, this is kind of my layout. Actually, what I want to do now is create a new XD file, and we'll go in and I'll show you how you can create a similar layout and a similar theme if you want to your design elements and how you can quickly manage them. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a new document. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hit Command N. And what it's going to do is going to ask me what type of document I want to create here. And I'm going to use web 1920 by 1080. Again, this depends on what assets you're building for. Mine, the cover images for YouTube are 1920 by 1080, so that works for me. All right, so the first thing that you're going to be brought into is a single artboard. Now, I don't want to get too much into how to use XD. There are plenty of great tutorials out there. If you're absolutely brand new to XD, maybe pause this video, go watch some introductions to XD. I just want to kind of show you how I'm using it to create these thumbnails. So the first thing that I would do is actually rename this, and I'm going to say, let's just start where we are now. So I'm going to say May 2020 is the time. And if you want to, you can zoom in and out by using Command plus or minus. So I'm going to zoom out and you can see that I only have like one artboard here, right? So what I want to do is just add a background to this. So I'm going to add a new background. I'm going to pick, say, a purple, and that gives me a purple background. And now I'm going to add some text to this. So I want to say May 2020, and if I go ahead and increase the size of this, one thing I really love about XD too is just everything kind of snaps where it's supposed to be. So as you can see, I get those grid lines, and now I know that's in the middle. I can go ahead and change the fill to this. I'm going to say that this is white, and I'm going to use Nove, which I like as a font. Again, just want to make sure that's centered. You can also use these icons up here to kind of align and center things if you want. So now that I have my May 2020 header, what I want to do is create a new artboard, right? So if I zoom out, what I want to do is, let's create a couple of these first. So if you select the artboard itself and hit Command D, that's going to duplicate that. So now we can come in here and say June 2020, and I can center that. Again, I can Command D and say July 2020. Again, want to make sure it's centered, and now I can space bar and drag around, and now I have an area to which I can work with. So the first thing I want to do is create a new artboard that I'm going to use as my first template for a design for a YouTube thumbnail. So the way I do that is you grab the artboard tool here, so that, or you can hit the shortcut A. Again, as you're starting to see, the shortcuts are really, really helpful. You could drag and just create one if you wanted to, but you can also get this list of common artboards. So we know that we're creating a 1920, so I'm just going to hit that, and it's going to create that new artboard for me. So I'm going to hit the V shortcut to select, and I'm going to drag it down, and then you can put any type of space in between this as you want. So if you wanted like 250, so you can have 250 pixels between those. You can even space these out more if you want, but then the nice thing is if you were to duplicate this, as you start to like drag, see those little pink spacers? That'll make sure that I'm spacing all my artboards equally, which is really nice. So again, I'm on artboard and I want to start working on just this particular artboard. So what I'm going to do is hit Command 3, and that is going to push us into that artboard. So let's just say that I wanted to create a new, let's say that we are creating a YouTube thumbnail for Adobe XD introduction. So now you can start to work with the artboard here. So again, what I might do, what I really like about XD is, for me, Illustrator has always been kind of confusing. I know that I've gotten better at it over the years, but it's always been one of those things that like, okay, I know I need to like work with vector graphics if it's something that's going to scale. And it just like the workflow inside of Illustrator never worked. And Photoshop is like really great, but really, really busy for the things that I'm doing. I'm not creating these like crazy graphics. And that's where XD for me really comes in. It just gives you the ability to like create shapes, import your assets, and get right to it. So one thing that I like is if I go into File and I go to Open CC Libraries, I get access to my Creative Cloud libraries. So if you're not using Creative Cloud, no big deal. If you are, it's pretty cool. So what I want to do is actually come in here and go ahead and grab one of these design assets. So as I'm scrolling through here, I think I really like this one, some colorful confetti. I'm doing this on the fly. This is kind of like live coding. I'm live designing and I'm not a designer. So that is new waters for me. And you can see right off the bat, I already made a mistake. I didn't want to open this in Illustrator. I just wanted to bring it into Adobe XD. So what I'm going to do is close down Illustrator, come back to this, and I just want to place a copy in here. So that's going to place a copy. And now I can use that as part of my design. So I'm going to close this library, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to stretch this out. And we have some confetti with a purple background. So now I guess what I'll do is I'll just kind of go into what some of my designs look like. So the one thing that I do is I create a shape that I use to kind of section off my design. So what we can do is we can use this pen tool right here, And I'm going to come just outside of the document, or actually I can go right on the corner here. And I'm going to come down, and I'm going to come here. Oops, Control Z if I missed something. And I'm going to go, let's say, here. And here. And here. So I've connected the dots. There's a border. I don't want a border. I actually want to fill this, and I'm going to fill that with white. So now I have a fill color there. Now I can go ahead and manipulate this if I want. I realize that this is probably too much, so I just want to take it a little bit over here and a little bit down, and that looks pretty good. So now what I can do is I want to make some text really stand out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a box, and so I'm going to come in here and just create a box, and I'm going to add a fill color to this. So I could pick a random color. I like to stick with kind of themes here, as you'll see in some of my view and spring boot. All those things like kind of play off of the logo of whatever I'm working with. So if it's view, there's blues and greens involved. If this were a real XD thumbnail that I was working on, I'd probably grab the XD logo and work with the purples and the pinks in there. So that's kind of how I design my thumbnails. But here we are, we got this purple, and what I want to do now is create some text on top of it. So I'm just going to say Adobe XD, and as you can see, that's kind of big. We can go ahead and scale this down. But I don't know if you guys are noticing this. If you're a designer watching this, this is old news to you, but for us developers who are not designers, this makes it really easy. Just like working with text and shapes, just the basic things that I would use to create a thumbnail, it's just super easy in XD, and I just feel very comfortable working with it. So now one thing that I can do is I have this background image, right? And I have this shape over here. And I don't want to accidentally move those if I try to like select these, right? So what I want to do is go ahead and lock those. So I can lock with Command L. So I'm going to lock that one, and I'm going to lock this background. So now no matter what I select over here, I'm not going to move it. So that will allow me to go ahead and select just these two items here. So if I come in here and just select these, now I can Command D to duplicate it. And maybe I can say introduction, and then I can just kind of put this outside of the letters. All right, so now that we got our text, I want to bring a few more design elements into this. Off camera, I'm going to zoom out. I brought in a few other elements. Again, the nice thing about this is you could have, so in my ultimate list of YouTube thumbnails, I'm going to add a section for like design elements. Maybe I have logos. Maybe I have logos of products I use all the time, like Vue or Java. Maybe I have some screenshots I use. So I have a screenshot here of the Adobe XD. So you can have a whole like design assets panel if you want. Things like typography and colors. Those are things you're going to use over and over again. It's nice to have some type of design system in place for all of those. For now, I just brought in these two assets. Again, I took a screenshot by using some screen capture software. And the nice thing is I just copy and paste it right into here. So, working with assets is really, really nice. So what I want to do here is I actually want to take this, and I'm going to, I want to angle this and maybe zoom in on this XD part. And what I want to do is I want this to actually be behind that shape. So now if we go over here, we can go into our layers panel, and as I select this, you can see image 1 is here. So again, coming in here, it's nice to go ahead and name these. Again, just like any other program, if you ever use something like Photoshop, giving these elements nice names really helps you when you have to go and sort things out in your layers panel. So what I want to do is actually put this image below my layers panel. And now when I look at this, I am just looking at this particular thing. So let's XD together. I really want focused in there. So I'm going to put that there, and that looks good. So then another thing I do with my code screenshots is I may come in here and I drop the opacity down to say 50%. And that just kind of lets it blend in with the background a little bit more. So now I have that there. I'm going to go ahead and put this right here. And then one last touch, I may grab another pen tool. And again, I'll come in here and draw a new shape. And I'm just going to line this up. I'm holding shift to get a straight line. So I'm going to say right there and right there. And now I can go ahead and fill this with the same purple, maybe a different purple. And now I have that I could, let's just go ahead and get that lined up, and that looks good. Now I could write my website name on there and plop the XD logo on there. So that is really all I do. And then if I have another XD tutorial coming up, I will duplicate it, change the text, and I'm ready to go. So I know this was a little bit different tutorial than you're used to from this channel, but if you'd like to see more like this, and this is something that interests you, I create YouTube videos, I create courses, and so I have a lot of ideas on different things that I use and processes and tools. So if that kind of stuff interests you, please go ahead and let me know below. If you found value in this, please go ahead and leave me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and as always, friends, happy coding.